Hello, in this video you will learn how to use the CAML Query Builder provided by Spark Forms Builder. The CAML Query Builder is an intuitive user interface that helps you create CAML query to retrieve data from SharePoint lists easily and quickly. It includes features to create queries, export queries, copy queries, and test the query results on the spot. You can use the CAML query to retrieve and filter data for special controls, like list grid view, advanced repeater, data table, advanced lookup, and much more. And you can use the CAML query for rules with special functions, like populate repeater from list, or get and update list items data, and much more. Let's first see how to create a CAML query that retrieves data from a SharePoint list, and displays these data in a special control like grid view in our SharePoint form. To add the list grid view control, open the form you want to use it in. From the list at the top, click on Spark Forms Builder to open the canvas to design the form. As you see here, I've previously designed this form to focus on how to create the CAML query. If you are interested in how to customize the design for the form in detail, you can watch the tutorial video listed in the description below. We are going to use the list grid view control to display the employees filtered based on the department or manager name by using dynamic CAML query. These data exist in other list, which is employee data list. So we are going to connect this list grid with the employee data list. From control properties, modify the title. Connect the list grid view with employee data list that has the data. Set the list grid view settings. In the side list, select employee data and select the SharePoint fields that you want to show in the grid view. The list grid view provides us two ways to view the data from the other list. The first way is the searchable type view, which means to search for certain data within all the data in the list, and selected what we want to be listed in the list grid. Or queryable, which means that retrieve all the data in the list dynamically to display them in the list grid, or some data based on a specific condition. In our case, we are going to use the queryable view type, and add a dynamic CAML query to filter the data based on the department or manager name. So let's select the queryable type view. Now we are going to add a dynamic CAML query by clicking on Generate CAML Query. The CAML Query Builder window will open. As we see here, the CAML Query Builder contains many of the main areas: site path and lists panes. And here the columns list pane. To add your filters, here is the query filter tree pane. You can sort your data from here. And here the editor and result panes. And finally the top ribbon. From the query filter tree pane, we are going to add a filter to retrieve the data based on the department or manager's name. As we see here, we can add and or filters. In our case, we are going to add or filters, select or filters. As we see, you can add one or more than one and or condition. Then in the first condition, from the employee data list, select the department ID to compare with. The lookup department control. In the second condition, from the employee data list, select the manager ID to compare with. The manager people picker control. Okay, after adding the filters, we are going to select the columns that want to retrieve them. If you do not select anyone, the query will retrieve all the columns. Now we are going to add order by to CAML query. You can add one or more order by column. Click on the plus icon. Then select employee name to order by descending. You can delete order by from here. As we see here, the CAML query has been created in the editor pane. In the case of static data, you can test your query by clicking on the execute button in the top bar, and generating CAML query results in the results pane. You can also export the CAML query to a text file by clicking on the export button. As we see here, the query in a text file. Also, you can copy the generated CAML query in the editor pane into the clipboard, and use it anywhere you want. Great, we have finished creating CAML query. We are going to insert it in the CAML query field. So let's click on the insert button. After we have generated a dynamic CAML query, we are going to execute it. we have two options to execute the query at runtime: execute on load. If selected this option, the data will be retrieved on the form load. The other option on change, if selected, the data will be retrieved based on triggering the onChanged event on the selected controls. In our case, we are going to select onChange. And from the action controls, we are going to select Lookup Department Control and Manager People Picker Control. Then click on OK. Let's now publish the form and see how it works. Back to our list. Click on New. First, we are going to filter the employees' data based on the department. Select Filter by Department. Then select the IT department. As we see here, employees' data is displayed from the IT department. Now let's choose Filter by the manager. Then select Alex. As we see here, employees' data is displayed that Alex is responsible for them. Now let's see how to create a CAML query for rules with special functions, like populate repeater from list function in our SharePoint form. As we see here, we are going to display data from the products list in the repeater according to the company list's data, through the populate repeater from list function. As we see here, we have repeater control. We are going to add the products for the selected company, through the populate repeater from list function. To add this function, we have to add a rule first. Select the company name Lookup Control. Then from the top ribbon, click on the Control Rules. Create a new rule. Modify the rule name. Select Rule Type Action. And apply the rule on change. In the Action text box, we are going to add the populate repeater from list function. From the right panels, under Functions, Spark Forms provide 100 built-in functions. At the search box, type populate repeater from list. And here it is. You can have more details about the function from here. As we see here, to add the function, there are two ways: by the wizard, or manually. I am going with the wizard. So click on the wizard icon, Case Manager wizard window will open. Select repeater ID. Type site path. Select site list, products, from which we want to retrieve the data from. Then click on Next. Now we are going to add a dynamic CAML query, by clicking on Generate CAML Query. The CAML Query Builder window will open. The site and the list are already selected from the previous step. Adding a filter to retrieve the data based on the company name. From the products list, I'm going to select the company name ID to compare with. The Lookup company name control. Select the columns that want to retrieve them. Now we are going to select the product name to order by descending. Great, we have finished creating the CAML query. Let's insert the CAML query field in the function. And then click on Next. Now we are going to map the listed repeater controls with their list columns. And here we are, the function is done. This function will retrieve all the data for the selected company. Then click Save. Great. We have finished designing the form. Let's now publish the form and see how it works. Let's get back to our list. Click on New. Let's select L company. And here we are. All the products data have been retrieved in the repeater, and displayed descending. We saw how to generate a CAML query easily and quickly with CAML Query Builder, and how you can use the CAML query to retrieve and filter data, for special controls like list grid view, and how to use the CAML query for rules, with special functions like populate repeater from list. Follow us to learn more about advances used for SharePoint and Spark Forms. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe, and if you have a comment, please write it down. Thank you.